For more on this, we have a special guest. Suzanne Cook is a first-generation farmer, an influencer, and a blogger. She joins me now from Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's good to have you on the show, and I may even give you the title Superwoman because you have an amazing story of taking over essentially a farm from nothing, and you just went over there and you just built it. Tell me a little bit about that background and share with our audience here how you got into this.
Well, first of all, hi, Phil. So it was really a crazy story. I never pictured myself as a farmer. My grandparents, ages ago, before I was born, were big farmers and very successful. But they died and they never really told me much about it. And back in 2012, when the U.S. economy took its first big dip, my husband looked at me and he said, I think we need to be a little less reliant on the economy and more self-sufficient. So just on a whim, we found 87 vacant acres out in the country and we bought it. And we looked at the market to see what was, possibly going to do well. And we decided to go with horse hay because there is a good market for horse hay. It's not dependent necessarily on the economy and we can set our own price. So it was a lot of, my husband worked full time. So I kind of got stuck learning how to do everything myself and made some big mistakes, but I didn't kill myself. I'm still here.
Wait, hold on a second. This was his idea to go to the farm. So you went to the farm, and then he stays at work, and he's like, well, you just go ahead and finish this off and build the rest of the farm, right? And I mean, how did you? I mean, that must have taken a long time.
It did. Actually, it was fully vacant land. We didn't even have electricity. So for the first 6 months, we lived in a camper with 6 kids. It was rough through the dead of Michigan winter. So you're looking at negative 14-degree temperatures at night. But, with farming, it's a lot of grit. And that first year gave me a lot of grit. And you really kind of like look in yourself and say, okay, I'm obviously not very big. I'm obviously not very strong, but I got to get this done somehow. So you figure out ways to do stuff. And each time you figure it out, it builds your self-esteem. And you're like, you know what? I might not do it the best job or the fastest way, but I can get it done.
Well, while you're talking, by the way, just for our viewers, they're watching some of your clips that you have on social media of the farm girl. I'm probably not saying it correctly. And so you're also an influencer and you're a vlogger, so you're sharing your experience with the world on what you're doing. And we spoke to you a couple of years ago, actually more than that, in 2019. Tell me, post-COVID, which is I think more relevant here, to where you are today, tell me how life has changed for you, but really what we're interested in is not just you, but also for all of your fellow farmers that are all around you that have had to deal with this pandemic and now economic downturn and the cost of everything going up. How are you guys doing? How are you handling it now?
I think the biggest obstacle, at least out in our area, has been just getting parts. Some people, it's tractors, equipment. If you need to upgrade your equipment or even old equipment that needs to be repaired, sometimes it's months just to get a part. And that's a huge obstacle. I mean, more so than prices, because if you don't have a part, you can't farm. So, I mean, there's that aspect. And then the other aspect is trying to find help. A lot of people, there's so many jobs everywhere right now, and you just can't convince people to come work on a farm when they can make more money working elsewhere and less backbreaking work. So
are your profit margins what you expected them to be? Is this, I know you had expectations going into this, but would you say they've gone up or gone down in terms of what you're expecting to take out of this?
I think they have gone down a little bit with the rising cost of diesel, especially. That's played a major role. Fertilizer, urea. We have been trying to move more towards manure, but we bought a dump truck and then that kind of kicked the bucket. So we have to go back to urea, but our profit margins are very tight. We try to stay debt free. So, but it's a balancing game. You really have to know your numbers between how much adding urea is going to give you as far as extra crop, or, how much it's going to take away with the price of things.
And this journey you've been on now for multiple years, I'm very curious as to what your family and your friends said to you when you told them you were going to leave and go live on a farm and build a farm.
Uh, you kind of find out who your real friends are. Most of my friends stopped talking to me. Um, my grandma was still alive and she was very old. She obviously wasn't still on a farm. She thought it was great. She was really proud of me. And that meant a lot to me because even though she couldn't remember anything from her farming days when she was younger, she just would come visit the farm and just marvel at everything that we'd gotten done. And just a different day and age. When she was farming, she just took care of the house. And nowadays, there's so many more women that are involved in farming, and it was just really made her happy.
And your children, I mean, I'm sure you're an inspiration to them every day, but you're also a very different kind of mom too, right?
Yes. So most of our kids were raised in a housing development. So moving to the farm was a shock for them. They were not happy with it, and we put them to work straight off the bat and maybe even worked them a little bit too hard. But now, as adults, they're coming back to the farm to help out. We just started a new venture with our farm, which was planting Christmas trees. And out of the blue, they all showed up to help plant
Wow.
1,000 Christmas trees. So that was pretty good.
One last question, and we'll let you go.
Sure.
I know you're busy. I've got Nellis in my ear. He's our producer. And if we were to go and say, we want to do this too, and I'm sure people who watch this are going to say, well, could I do it? What advice would you give to somebody saying, we're going to leave Washington, D.C., and we're coming out, we're going to be neighbors with you? What would you tell them?
I think my biggest advice would be figure out what you might like to do, check the local areas, and see what there's a niche for. You can grow anything, but that doesn't mean that it's going to put money in your bank account. So if you can find a niche, a hole in the market, or something where you can set your own price, you're going to fare a lot better.
Suzanne, I really appreciate the time you're spending with us.
No problem.
You have made, I think, thousands and thousands of new friends here. So we're going to keep talking to you for sure. Suzanne Cook, an amazing first-generation farmer.
Thank you.
First time, actually. Thank you very much. Have a great week.